healthcare, information technology, banking, manufacturing, electric vehicles, artificial intelligence. All these leading sectors of today can function only if they have enough supply of power. We are going to talk about the power sector today. India is the third largest consumer of power in the world. Yet, the per capita power consumption is among the lowest. This indicates tremendous future growth. And when it comes to renewable energy, India has already become a global leader in many aspects. Among the power companies, TATA Power is clearly the market leader in the renewable energy segment, especially solar power. The stock price has gone up 104% in the last 1 year. How much more juice is left in the stock? We are going to find that out. Also, there are certain risks of investing in the power sector. Power companies have destroyed investors' wealth in the past, and for that reason, most big investors like to stay away from this sector. We are also going to discuss those risks in this video. So let's begin. Namaste and welcome to Retail Investing. It was early 2022. The world was still trying to recover from the pandemic, and suddenly the Russia-Ukraine conflict started. America imposed their toughest ever sanctions on Russia, and that started a major energy crisis in Europe. From that point, energy security became a major concern for global leaders, including Indian leaders. Cold winters in Europe increased demand for energy imports from Russia. But fortunately, that year the winter was mild. In addition to that, the inflation in commodity prices came down. A global energy crisis was averted. But policymakers around the globe felt the need for becoming self-reliant in meeting their energy demands. And clean energy seemed to be the best solution. You see, sunlight, wind, and rivers are available in every country. If these natural resources can be used to produce energy, dependence on foreign countries can go down. The Tropic of Cancer passes through India, giving us an abundant supply of sunlight all year. Solar power makes the most sense. The Indian economy has been the fastest growing major economy for a while. For this growth to continue, the power sector must function optimally. India has been heavily dependent on coal for electricity generation. Coal needs to be imported, and based on the geopolitical situations, its supply may get disrupted. Plus, it is extremely polluting. The long-term national goal is to reach net zero emissions by the year 2070, and the shorter-term goal is to produce 50% of electricity required from renewable sources by the year 2030. This creates massive growth opportunities for companies operating in segments like hydroelectricity, wind energy, and most importantly, solar power. And by the way, India has over-delivered on climate change commitments. The promises made at the COP21 Paris Summit were achieved 9 years ahead of its time committed. Thanks to the tremendous growth in solar and wind power, Tata Power is doing extremely well in these segments. 39% of Tata Power's installed capacity is clean and green energy. By 2030, the company has plans to increase the share of renewable energy to 70% of its portfolio. So this company has become the market leader in solar power, and that should explain the 104% gain in the stock price. So here is the chart of Tata Power. The current market price is around 425 rupees. Since October 2023, it has gained 82%. The 200-day moving average is at 280 rupees. Now, if you look at the volumes, you will notice that since the last week of November 2023, the daily trading volumes have been much higher than usual. Now, stocks usually slow down or correct a bit after such run-ups. So please keep that in mind. The RSI is 70 plus, which indicates very strong momentum. But that is not the reason to buy a stock. We need to estimate the future cash flows. The Union government has recently announced a plan to solarize 1 crore households in the country, and it will be done by placing rooftop solar panels over people's homes. Till now, the rooftop solar panels have been installed mostly on commercial buildings. So this scheme of solarizing households is not only going to make those households save money in electricity bills, but also they can sell the surplus electricity to the distribution companies. Electric vehicle charging facilities can also be set up in people's homes. So earning opportunities for both businesses and the households. In the rooftop solar segment, Tata Power has the biggest market share and they have channel partners in 400 cities/towns. The company has built a new manufacturing unit for the solar PV cells made in India. Recently, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has reimposed a ban on the import of certain solar cells and modules, all of which, by the way, comes from one of our neighbors. I'm not naming anyone. So this move by the government is going to boost the domestic manufacturing of solar cells, and immediately Tata Power is going to be the biggest beneficiary. Now the company is also entering the business of transmission of green energy. In fact, they already have 2 green energy transmission corridor projects, one in Rajasthan and one in Western UP, and they have plans to expand slowly in this segment without eroding profit margins. Now in the next 3 years, Tata Power is planning to do capex of around 60,000 crore rupees, which means they are expecting more growth. So here is the financial overview. The first thing that draws my attention is the debt of 52,000 crore rupees. It is a very big number, but for power sector companies which require a lot of heavy infrastructure, it's quite normal. Now the cash reserves are roughly 30,000 crore rupees, and that calms down my nerves a little bit. It is also a free cash flow positive company, which is always a good thing. So here is the overview of the profit and loss statement. So in the last 3 years, the company's sales have compounded at 24%. But during the same period, the profits have compounded at 133%. Whenever a company's profits grow much faster than the sales, it is usually a very good sign. Now, most of this profit is coming from the company's core business. And according to the CEO, the share of the core business profits is going to go up in the next 3 years. So here is the shareholding pattern. If you look at the list of institutional investors, very few fund managers are interested in the stock. The power sector is usually avoided by big investors and institutional investors. And I believe one of the main reasons for that is what happened between 2003 and 2008. Now that period of 5 years was basically a phase of infrastructure boom, or should I say a bubble. Interest rates were low and financing was very easily available. And in addition to that, privatization had just begun in the sector. This led to the creation of power infrastructure, which was way more than necessary. Everyone was raising capital and building infrastructure. Even the banks and the NBFCs were pushing for it. Soon they realized there was not going to be enough demand for their products and services. That's how bubbles get created and they burst. Reliance Power is a very famous stock from that era. Its IPO was subscribed 73 times. So this is the chart of Reliance Power. It touched a peak of 274 rupees in May of 2008, and 16 years later, it is a penny stock today. Most professional investors still don't like the power sector, and it is mainly because of the sector's history. But today things are quite different. Power companies are not over leveraged. At least not Tata Power. And green energy is totally changing the game. But the fear of government regulations still remain. It is a heavily regulated sector, and also there is some cyclicality involved. The demand for power changes from season to season, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives. Power demand is rising fast with rise in per capita incomes. Air conditioners, which consume heavy power, used to be a luxury item in India. Only the rich used it. But things have totally changed now. The government has mandated that all truck cabins have to be air conditioned from 2025. Driving trucks is not a high paying job in India, and truck drivers are not in the middle class yet, even if their contribution to the transport sector is unparalleled. I would assume that if ACs are a necessity for truck cabins, all middle class homes will also become air conditioned in the future. Power demand can only go up. Now, what do you think of the power sector in general and Tata Power in particular? Please let me know in the comment section. This stock is a big part of my portfolio. I started buying it at 80 rupees and kept upward averaging, and now my average buying price is 200. I plan to hold it until 2047. Now you might ask, why 2047? Why so long? Because that is exactly how real men invest. A real man is capable of holding as long as he wants to. We are already in March. The national elections are very near. This is the time when we hear things like India is becoming a dictatorship. And until the elections are over, I assume that we are going to witness the death of democracy at least once every week. But we are the stock market people. We just need to remember that as long as the stock market is functional and the prices are not controlled by anybody, we retail investors have hope. We shall meet again. Jai Hind.